So this video is, I really don't know what specific topic to give because I do have a lot I want to say. Although for me, I think this video will just concern more on my future with the Nutbwallers and my future with just mainly the Nutbwallers, although I really do want to, it might just carry over to where it may just be more about my social life. Actually, yeah, my social life and my life. But this is more to me a random thoughts video. But some of what I might be saying, then next thing, I might move on to the next topic, like briefly. Although I do want to make this more about where my social life is at, and primarily where the Nutbwallers, like where I stand with the Nutbwallers, and as this next month goes on, which is as of right now it's June, right? So as I really don't want to have to repeat myself with what transpired the last, few months, like after what happened, like toward the end of March and obviously all of April and May. Fast forward, it's already June 6th, and yes, I already started to reconnect with some friends like Nathan and Julio, who I did see last night. We had a good dinner, and some of our conversations were pretty deep, but I'm not really gonna go into that much detail. I did express as much of all the problems, like the main problems I've had, and the thing, and he gave some pretty solid reasons. A lot of it's like, I think it's just best at this point, like, although it's easier said than done, it's applying it is a whole, different action that many times is harder than it is just saying it, right? So, as far as I'm concerned, him, me, and Robbie, as we're no longer friends, I did tell him about that. I made it clear, and that most of us are going through some, like, we're all going through like a roller coaster ride of things, right? But as for Robbie, though, concerning all the Nutballer videos that I thought he deleted, he said that Leo said they might be just hidden. So there is an option where you can choose to make all his videos private. So he made a good point there, which means, like, how we all joke around saying that Tristan took a leave of absence. We thought the same with Robbie, but who knows? I want to believe that Julio's right, that he just hid those videos, and I think that would probably tell me that Robbie is not done being a Nutballer officially. But as of right now, he's, I think he's going through a whole lot, But I'm just gonna leave it at that. And as far as, like, I kind of want to jump on now to the Nutballer side of things. I was asked, I know Julio asked last night about if I could just rename the group. As far as, it's only a suggestion, but as far as, like, because of what I did in that group text incident, obviously I know I've in a lot of my old videos I've been bringing that up, and as a reference as to where I stand with my social life and my life in general, and based on that, You know what I'm saying? And what I did earlier in this January, obviously, I don't need to even repeat that. But to me, nah. The Nutbwallers has been a special group since 2006. Obviously, in 2006, the original Nutbwallers were me, Abbas, Robbie, and Chris. We did a lot of hangouts together back then. Like after, once I started college, and or this is more like after, or it's more like right after. It's more like right after I graduated high school that Robbie started to come up again, and we started to reunite. And me, him, Chris, and the boss were the main guys. We mostly hung out, whether it's in my house or Robbie's then old place. You know, just when he was still living in Anaheim at the time, a boss's house or Chris's. So we did a lot of video gaming, and you know, I think it started out when I did these South Park edits. You know, I was a really big fan of the South Park designing site, like where you can create your own South Park character, right? There was two sites. I remember using the planetarium one, where they have more features, and then eventually started using Photoshop to just customize certain backgrounds. I remember one of the ones I liked a lot was the waterfall hike, the Black Star Canyon hike, the South Park edit of me and Julio. Yeah, but mind you, that him and I, it was just him and I last night. Me and Julio. That was the first time. I even told him it was since what, 2017. So that was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But that was the last time we hung out, literally. So one-on-one. I'm talking about one-on-one, and that was the hike. And as far as hiking, I think that too. So a lot of our hangouts since then have been really just group hangouts, you know, or it's just me, him, and Robbie, or me, him, and Russ, and all that. So getting back to what I said, this is how. I mean, I literally started out with one of those edits as the group called the Nutbwallers. Nutbwallers. I'm not trying to make it sound adulterated here. Like the Nutbwallers. Yeah. You know, I think meaning we all go nuts, right? You know, the crazy kind of group. You know, in many different ways. That's why we're called the Nutbwallers. And then later on, when Tristan came along and Bobby, all of a sudden, I turned the Nutbwallers into the Nutbwallers before I even added the W before the A. So yeah, it became the Nutbwallers, and going forward, it just became the Nutbwallers. Even when Alexis, who came in shortly and then departed as soon as he left to eventually moved out to San Jose, and then Jerry, I mean, he didn't even last around for that long, and that dude has some psychomaniac issues, but then later in the later part of I think starting in 2010s, it became Julio, and then Russ, and then Dewey. I want to say Andrew's part of it, but he wasn't really part of it yet. And Ray, no, not yet. Neil and Nick, they weren't really part of it. I mean, Neil wasn't even part of it until 2014, when I first hung out. When he first hung out with me, just him without Nick, for the Mission Inn Lights, that big old group hangout, right? In 2014, mid-December. So, and Carlos, although I always thought he was a Nutballer, but I think it's just ever since we started doing the traditional breakfast only thing, even it started to feel like he was part of the group, right? So he's just, he's like, yeah, hey, I remember we went to Coffee Bean on the last day of the month, and that was our breakfast only. And we also hung out at Knott's Berry Farm. This was in 2023, April 30th. And he even said, hey, why am I not part of Nutbwallers? So, oh, you want to be a part of it? I was like, okay. Yeah, so I included him there. and then, so yeah, it's like, we got a history, man. It's hard for me to just, like, remove the name, only because it's special. I even have a lot of videos on that. Man, this channel has a number of videos, even organized. If you look at my playlists, you can start from like 2012 to 2013. 2013 had a chunk of, like, I'm talking about, it's got 1 million of Nutballer videos, even all organized by month. And there are literally a lot of like group hangout videos. This just brings some nostalgia, man. Like sometimes I'll be watching these videos and I'm like, man, this nostalgia is the reason why I don't want to remove that name. No way, man. I mean, I understand what I did. Obviously, I know I keep bringing up the group text incident, but at the same time, it's like, I know this group will go on. I've said it in some of my older videos too, where I said, is there going to be a future for the Nutballers? I said yes, but I wasn't even confident enough in saying it. Now that I start reconnecting with some friends, like I did call the boss last night right after, I left Julio's place, a new place. It's still in Orange. So boss and I, we have to see each other soon, and it will be sometime this month. So to me, I have some confidence. However, I'm not really 100% yet on that decision, because I know what I still have to go through and all that, and some of us, I'm pretty sure, we're dealing with like a roller coaster ride for different reasons. So yeah, I kind of want to just touch on that mainly. I know I want to say more, but I'll get to that in a bit.